So most people think of Pembroke Welsh Corgi as just, this cute loaf-shaped lap dog that's absolutely perfect for a cozy
Right,
apartment.
the internet really sells that image.
Oh, completely. But the reality is that you are essentially moving a highly alert 30-pound farm implement straight into your living room.
A farm implement is honestly the best way to describe it.
I mean, just picture this, right? The alarm hasn't even finished going off, and the dog already knows someone is awake.
Oh yeah, they are instantly on the clock.
Exactly. He's up, he's tracking the very first person toward the kitchen before their feet even hit the floor. And then he just stations himself under the breakfast table.
Hmm.
Like he is on duty.
Waiting for a crumb to drop.
Yep. And then a delivery truck stops outside, which results in an instant deafening alert bark.
Because that truck is an anomaly on his perimeter.
Right. So then someone finally leaves for work, and the dog tries to literally herd them straight out the door, shedding this highly visible layer of hair all over their black work pants on the way out.
It is always the black pants. Always.
Always. And then the house goes quiet, and he just stands there in dead silence for like a solid minute, auditing the perimeter to make sure everyone has actually vacated the premises.
That audit is crucial to them.
It really is. And then evening rolls around, the family returns, he is absolutely thrilled, and the day culminates in the classic mistake where two different family members both feed him a full bowl of food.
The infamous double dinner.
Yes, because they each assumed the other one hadn't fed him yet.
Because the dog acted like he was starving. I mean, it is just this perfect storm of movement, noise, opportunistic eating, and really intense observation. For a Pembroke, auditing that level of chaos is just a completely ordinary Tuesday.
And that daily audit is our exact mission for today's deep dive. We're unpacking what it is actually like to share a home with this breed. We're pulling from a stack of source material that bypasses all those cute internet videos to look at the real daily behavioral mechanics of living with them.
Which is so needed, honestly.
So if you are sitting on your couch right now looking at your Corgi, you probably already know they act less like a pet and more like a middle manager.
Yeah, the overarching theme in the research strongly supports that middle manager dynamic. I mean, the secret to living with a Corgi isn't about the size of your house at all. It is entirely about the consistency of your household.
Okay, wait, so it's not about space.
Not really, no. A Pembroke can adapt to a massive variety of living situations, provided that you establish consistent training, tightly controlled resources, secure boundaries, and, genuine involvement. It's the human system that matters, not the square footage.
So it's essentially like running a tiny furry corporation. Success doesn't require a bigger corporate headquarters, it requires standard operating procedures.
I love that analogy, standard operating procedures.
Because without those SOPs in place, the entire company just descends into utter chaos.
Yeah. Exactly. And that management structure has to dictate how they interact with their physical environment, which really brings up a major point of confusion for a lot of prospective owners, and that is the whole apartment debate.
Right, because they're small.
Yeah, because they have these incredibly short legs, the immediate visual assumption is just, well, they are the ideal low-energy apartment dog.
But the sources make a really sharp distinction there between their physical footprint and their behavioral footprint. Like physically, yes, they fit perfectly in a small space.
But behaviorally, an apartment is an incredibly demanding environment for them. I mean, you have to think about the genetics at play here.
Right, the herding history.
Exactly. You have an animal that has been selectively bred for generations to monitor the horizon for minute changes and anomalies in a flock of sheep or a herd of cattle.
So they are hardwired to notice everything.
Everything. So when you put that dog in an apartment building, those anomalies are suddenly hallway noises, or the elevator pinging, or neighbors just walking past a ground floor window.
And to a Corgi, every single one of those events requires an alert bark. Like they have to notify the management, which is you.
Right. And you can't just move them in and hope they eventually get used to the noise. You have to actively engineer the environment.
The materials actually mentioned something super specific about this. They talked about applying frosted privacy film to lower windows.
Oh, yeah, that is a lifesaver.
Just so the dog literally cannot spend 8 hours a day visually scanning the sidewalk. And that you have to actively counter-condition the response to hallway noises.
Yeah, so they learned that a slamming door down the hall doesn't require a full-blown security response. If you are a person who genuinely requires a naturally quiet, low-alert dog,
Then what?
well, the literature is quite blunt that a Pembroke might not be a fair fit for your lifestyle.
Wow. Okay, so the fascinating counterpoint to that is this assumption people have where they think, Oh, I'll just upgrade to a massive house with a sprawling yard, and that will magically solve the problem.
Oh, the big yard myth.
Right. But if you haven't built those standard operating procedures we just talked about, a bigger house just gives your tiny corporate manager more windows to bark out of.
Yeah, more territory to stress over.
Yeah.
And a yard introduces what behaviorists often refer to as the garden trap.
The garden trap. I like that term. What exactly does that look like?
Well, it's incredibly common for owners to assume a fenced backyard is a substitute for interactive exercise or walks. They just open the back door and figure the dog is getting its energy out.
But they're not just running laps for fitness.
No, exactly. If you leave a working breed alone in a garden, they aren't going to leisurely sunbathe on the grass. They will assign themselves a job.
And their self-appointed job is usually hyperfixating on the fence line, right? Digging trenches, barking at literally every squirrel, leaf, or delivery driver that breaches their visual airspace.
They become self-employed security guards. And furthermore, their unique physical build really masks a genuine escape risk.
Because they're so low to the ground.
Right. Short legs do not mean they are contained by a standard fence. You actually have to physically inspect the perimeter for gaps, broken latches, or leverage points.
Because they'll just squeeze right through.
They are determined, sturdy dogs. They will absolutely squeeze under a loose board if they find a vulnerability during their little patrols.
Okay, I'm stuck on this rural point, though. If they are literally bred to herd, shouldn't throwing them on a farm with a bunch of cows be their ultimate paradise?
Yeah.
Like, why would we restrict them from doing their actual job?
It does seem counterintuitive to restrict them. I totally get that. But the herding instinct alone doesn't guarantee safety.
What do you mean?
Well, herding in a practical agricultural setting isn't just a dog freely chasing animals around a field. It requires complex, highly trained communication between the dog and the handler.
So it's a team effort.
Absolutely. Without qualified supervision and formal training, a corgi trying to herd a 1,000-pound cow on its own is a recipe for disaster.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the dog can easily get kicked, trampled, or just separated from the property entirely.
So just having the raw instinct doesn't mean they possess the execution skills without a human manager directing them.
Precisely.
Okay, so if a dog can't safely fulfill its herding drive on actual livestock, and patrolling the yard is a behavioral trap, that energy doesn't just disappear. They bring that job indoors.
Oh, they absolutely do.
And suddenly, they are scanning the living room for literally anything that requires management.
And the most common target for that management is the most erratic moving object in the home. Which brings us to children.
Right, the kids.
Pembrokes can be deeply devoted companions for kids, they really can. But children move in ways that fundamentally trigger a dog's herding and prey drives.
The sources actually single out toddlers as the absolute trickiest age group. And when you think about it, to a corgi, a toddler is basically a wildly unpredictable, unherded sheep,
That is exactly how they see them.
just constantly falling over, squealing, and moving erratically.
Yes. And that specific combination of sudden, jerky movement and high-pitched noise triggers a predatory drift and a herding sequence.
It's just hardwired in them.
It is. The dog's genetic response is to bring order to that chaos. And they usually do that by chasing, barking, and executing the classic corgi move.
Which is the heel nip, right?
Yep, heel nipping. Nipping the heels of a stubborn cow is literally how they move livestock.
But when applied to a running toddler...
It is a serious behavioral liability.
Right. And this is where the concept of barrier comfort training comes up in the source material for families with babies or toddlers. It isn't just about throwing up a baby gate to separate them.
No, not at all. It's about the mechanics of how the dog perceives that gate. Barrier comfort training is vital. It means actively teaching the dog that being placed behind a baby gate or in a playpen is a highly rewarding experience.
Instead of a punishment.
Exactly. It shouldn't feel like a punishment for the baby's presence. You use high-value chew toys and positive reinforcement so the dog actually learns to settle behind the barrier.
Because if you don't do this...
The dog develops barrier frustration, where their anxiety and arousal actually spike because they are locked out of managing the environment.
That makes total sense. Now, you'd think teenagers would be the perfect solution for burning off a corgi's energy.
Right.
But the sources actually flag them as a potential liability on walks.
Yeah, that surprises a lot of people.
You cannot just assume a teenager can automatically handle a low-to-the-ground dog if that dog gets triggered by a squirrel or another dog.
It really comes down to the physics of the breed. I mean, they might only weigh 30 pounds, but a Pembroke center of gravity is incredibly low.
They're built like little tanks.
They really are. They basically have four-wheel drive. When they dig in and pull sideways, they generate immense lateral
Wow.
force.
Lateral force.
Yeah, that sudden horizontal torque can easily pull a teenager or even an adult dog walker completely off balance or just rip the leash right out of their hands.
That's wild. And we also had to look at the seniors in the household because these dogs are low, fast, and driven to anticipate exactly where you are going so they can beat you there.
Oh, they love cutting you off.
Right, so they are a severe tripping hazard for anyone with mobility issues. They will intentionally cut right across your path.
And that desire to control movement extends to other pets as well. The primary rule here is that context really matters.
Context, how so?
Well, a corgi can successfully live with an indoor cat, provided you engineer the home with elevated escape routes.
Like cat trees or high shelving?
Right, so the cat can dictate the interaction from above. But that same dog, who sleeps peacefully next to your cat on the sofa every single day, might instantly trigger into a chase sequence if an unfamiliar cat runs across the backyard.
Because the visual trigger of the sprint just completely overrides the baseline training.
Exactly. The movement is everything. And with small animals like rabbits or rodents, the sources are completely definitive.
Yeah, they said casual exposure is far too risky, right?
Yes. Their high interest in rapid movement means strict, secure physical separation is absolutely required.
Even when they're interacting with other dogs, their fearless nature can be a bit of a hidden danger. Like, a confident corgi will happily initiate rough play with a dog 3 times its size, acting as if they are total peers.
But physics still applies. A collision during play with a large breed can result in genuine spinal or orthopedic injury to the corgi simply due to the massive size disparity.
So, monitoring all of this, the kids, the cats, the delivery trucks, the neighbor opening their car door, it has to be neurologically exhausting for the dog.
It is incredibly draining for them.
If they are constantly running this perimeter check, their baseline stress has to be through the roof. How does that translate to their actual rest?
Well, a dog that cannot downregulate and actually sleep becomes a complete behavioral nightmare. They become more vocal, more mouthy, and just hyper-reactive to every minor stimulus.
So they need a break.
They desperately need a protected resting spot that is physically removed from the heavy traffic zones of the house.
So you shouldn't put their bed in the kitchen.
No, if you put their primary bed right next to the front door or the kitchen island, they are never allowed to clock out.
They need a space where the sensory input is dialed to 0. Which brings up the working owner dilemma.
Ah, yes.
The sources confirm they can absolutely live with people who work full-time. But you have to build their tolerance for alone time gradually. You can't just take a puppy, drop them in a crate for 9 hours on a Tuesday, and expect success.
It has to be scaled to their age and their physiological needs. I mean, puppies physically cannot hold their bladders for a full workday, and senior dogs often require midday access to go to the bathroom.
Now, I always assumed getting a second dog was the easiest fix for a lonely working breed. Like, just get them a coworker to keep them company while you were at the office.
It is one of the most persistent myths in dog ownership, honestly, and the source material explicitly shuts it down.
Really, it doesn't work.
Getting a second dog to fix a primary dog's boredom or anxiety almost always compounds the issue. Through social facilitation, you just end up with 2 bored, anxious dogs feeding off each other's nervous energy.
Oh, wow. So you just double the problem.
Exactly. You get twice the alert barking and twice the destruction.
Okay, so doggy daycare is often pitched as the alternative then. But throwing a movement-sensitive herding breed into a room with 30 rapidly running dogs sounds like an absolute sensory overload.
For many Pembrokes, daycare is profoundly overstimulating. Their cortisol levels just spike because they are desperately trying to manage a completely unmanageable environment.
That sounds miserable for them.
It can be. It is worth trialing with a highly supervised small group facility, maybe, but it is definitely not the automatic solution people think it is.
Right. And if they're struggling with being alone at home, the sources make a critical distinction between a dog that is just bored and a dog experiencing genuine separation distress.
Yes, this is so important.
Because it's so easy to come home to a chewed-up rug and think, oh, the dog is acting out of spite because I left them behind.
But dogs do not possess the cognitive framework for spite. They just don't. If you are seeing persistent howling, frantic destruction, specifically localized around the doors and windows...
Like trying to dig out.
Yes. Or a dog that refuses to eat a high-value treat while you are gone, that is a physiological panic response. Their sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive.
So they aren't mad, they are terrified.
Exactly. That requires targeted behavioral modification and frequently veterinary support with anti-anxiety medication to bring their panic threshold down enough so they can actually learn.
Speaking of high-value treats, we have to talk about the kitchen, which seems to be the absolute center of gravity for this breed. This kind of circles back to our morning vignette with the double dinner trap.
Oh, the kitchen. Because they're deeply bonded and they love to shadow their people, and because humans spend a massive amount of time in the kitchen, corgis basically become professional kitchen hoverers.
Just waiting for something to drop.
Right. They are highly opportunistic scavengers.
And if you don't have a system, they will absolutely con a second dinner out of your spouse by acting as if they haven't been fed in weeks.
They are very convincing.
The literature stresses the need for a shared feeding log, like a literal whiteboard on the fridge, where you actively check off who fed the dog.
Because caloric creep is incredibly dangerous for dwarf breeds.
Caloric creep, like just adding a little bit too much over time.
Yeah. When you combine breakfast, training treats, a chew bone, and the snacks a toddler inevitably drops from the high chair, the dog gains weight rapidly.
And on a long dog, that's bad.
It's devastating. Excess weight puts immense strain on their elongated spines and short joints. It exponentially increases the risk of structural injuries.
Managing the waistline is one thing, but everyone already knows corgis shed constantly. What really fascinated me in the source material, though, is how they reframe managing that coat.
The brushing, right.
Yeah, brushing isn't presented as a cosmetic chore at all. It's actually framed as an essential diagnostic tool.
I love that they highlight this. It is hands-on preventative health care.
How so?
Well, when you are regularly working your hands through a heavy double coat, you are basically performing a tactile physical exam. You will catch a new subcutaneous lump, a hot spot forming on the skin, an unexplained shift in their weight, or a sensitivity in their paws long before it becomes visually obvious.
That is such a smart way to look at it.
Yeah.
And the logistics of managing their physical reality extend outside the house, too. Travel requires very specific protocols.
You can't just let a dense 30-pound dog roam free in the backseat of a car.
No, because in the event of a sudden stop, they become a highly dangerous projectile. They absolutely require a crash-tested harness or a secured travel crate.
And if that travel involves a hotel, you have to account for their environmental sensitivity.
Because of the noises we talked about earlier.
Right. A dog that struggles with hallway noises at home is going to be exceptionally stressed in an unfamiliar hotel environment where strangers are constantly walking past the door.
So this level of management, the training, the feeding logs, the travel restraints, it all requires resources. The sources are very pragmatic about the financial reality of this breed.
Very pragmatic. Pet insurance is highly recommended.
But you have to read the fine print before you actually need it.
Oh, absolutely. You must intimately understand a policy's exclusions, particularly for inherited conditions that are common to dwarf breeds.
Like what kind of conditions?
You need to know exactly how the policy handles intervertebral disc disease, hip dysplasia, and degenerative myelopathy. If you wait until the dog is visibly limping to check your coverage, it is already too late.
That is a tough lesson to learn. And when it comes to acquiring the dog in the first place, if you are utilizing a breeder, the sources say the biggest red flag is someone who leads with trendy coat colors.
Yeah, color should not be the priority. You want a breeder whose primary vocabulary is heavily focused on temperament testing, detailed health histories, and genetic screening results.
And conversely, if you're looking at breed-specific rescues, you're often looking at dogs who were surrendered precisely because the previous owners failed to implement the standard operating procedures we've discussed today.
It happens all the time.
But the dog is inherently damaged, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But love alone does not rewire established behavioral gaps. It takes profound patience, structured training, and time.
The sources make a deeply compassionate point regarding rescue and rehoming, actually. They say that if a family realizes they simply cannot engineer their life to meet the intense behavioral needs of a dog, responsible rehoming isn't a moral failure.
I am so glad they emphasize that.
It is actively prioritizing the welfare of the animal over human ego.
It truly is the most ethical decision an overwhelmed owner can make.
So when you lay it all out, the toddler management, the counter conditioning for noise, the lateral force on walks, the strict caloric budgets, it sounds like an intense lifestyle adjustment.
It is an undeniable commitment, and it is a commitment that evolves. I mean, the logistics change over time.
How do they change?
Well, a puppy requires intense boundary training, right? While a senior dog might require you to actually install traction mats on your hardwood floors or ramps for the sofa because their spine can no longer handle the impact of jumping.
But the beauty of establishing these systems, lagging the meals, training them to settle behind barriers, providing elevated spaces for the cat, is that you aren't suppressing the dog's nature.
Not at all.
You are building an infrastructure where their highly alert, intensely opinionated, deeply devoted personality can actually function without driving everyone crazy.
Exactly. You are giving the tiny corporation a functional management structure where it can ultimately thrive.
So to you, listening right now, thank you for joining us on this exploration. Moving past the superficial assumptions about breed size to truly understand the psychological mechanics of a dog's daily life is exactly why we do these deep dives.
It really changes the entire paradigm of ownership. And, connecting this back to the broader implications of the research, there is a fascinating thread to consider.
Oh, that.
Well, we spent a lot of time analyzing how these deeply ingrained historical herding instincts sort of misfire in our modern environments.
Right, like managing toddler movement, patrolling wooden fences, reacting to delivery trucks.
Yeah, they are trying to bring order to a world that isn't made of sheep.
That's a great way to put it.
So my thought for you to explore after we sign off is this. As we continue to breed these dogs primarily for companionship in highly urbanized, technology-dense environments over the next few decades, will those genetic herding instincts eventually begin to fade from the breed entirely?
Oh, wow.
Or, and this is the fun part, will the corgi of the future simply adapt, finding entirely new, bizarre ways to herd our smart home devices, actively corral our robotic vacuums, and manage the delivery drones landing in our yards?
Knowing the corgi, they are absolutely going to try to herd the robot vacuum.
Oh, for sure.
From auditing the empty house in the morning to auditing the smart home of the future.
Yeah.
Well, it's just another day at the office.